Randy Elvis Frisky and his Las Vegas Show Band 40th Anniversary Aloha Tour this January in Chilliwack, Surrey, Sydney, Campbell River, Nanaimo, and Courtney. On sale now. Details at randyelvisfrisky.com.
You're listening to HowStreet.com radio, available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. Welcome to HowStreet.com radio, the online source for market opinions. Here is Jim Goddard.
My guest is David Smith. He's the senior analyst for the Morgan Report, which you can find online at silver-investor.com. Welcome to the show, David.
Hello, Jim. How are you today?
I'm doing great. We'll be looking at a couple of things. You believe that the demand for gold is just simply going to climb faster than supplies will over the next few years, although we do have a major property coming online in the new year. And a warning, once again, for people, if you're thinking about selling your so-called scrap gold or jewelry to make a little extra cash around Christmas time, an advisory that perhaps you won't get the value for your product that you really should. Well, first of all, let's talk about the possibility we just won't have enough gold to meet the demand, and we know what that'll do to the price.
Well, the demand is moving up sharply, not just in North America at the retail level, but also through central bank increased purchases and massive purchases on the part of the Chinese central bank as well as individuals. So with gold supplies increasing, used to be they would increase about 2% a year of new gold that would be available, but that's really fallen back a lot in the last few years, well under 2%, and the demand keeps moving faster and faster, and so I think that next year it's going to become quite apparent to just about everybody that demand is far outstripping new supply.
Well, a couple of times I saw the price for gold dip below 1,700, but it seems to climb right back up around the 1,732 mark or so. Do you expect in the new year that because of this situation, it's going to be even more precious?
Timing is really difficult to predict on this, but generally speaking, in the spring are very strong seasonal months. I think April is one of the strongest months of the year for seasonal strength in the metal. So I would kind of expect a very high probability of a good-sized rally getting developed, maybe starting as right around Christmas time and moving on into the new year.
Do you think some investors might be caught off guard because we know traditionally the markets are kind of what I call slushy around Christmas, with not a lot of attention being paid to them? Is that a chance for somebody who's knowledgeable to kind of sneak in and take advantage of that?
Certainly on the larger purchasers, the larger buyers are probably buying in terms of weakness, and we've seen that happen as gold and silver have dropped down into support areas. And the thing is, we've talked about this a lot on the show, but the mining stocks themselves are greatly undervalued in relationship to the metal. They've lagged for several years. And so people that have done their homework and are watching a stock, buying it into weakness, have a real chance to do very well rather than trying to buy after prices have moved up substantially.
One bright spot on the supply front, new mine is scheduled to go online in northern Ontario, the Detour Lake property, and that's kind of an interesting place to take a look at with the projections they have.
Yes, it looks like there's going to be quite a bit of potential gold being developed there. I think that they were talking about once it was fully ramped up around 600 and some thousand ounces a year over the next 20 years, a large open pit mining operation. And you counterbalance that with demand all over the world in relationship and see how that fits into the matrix. I think even with that gold coming online, you're still going to see supply issues in relationship to increased demand going forward.
And odds are the shares of that particular company probably still undervalued?
I haven't really followed that particular company, but you know the old saying, if it's in the news, it's in the price. And so most likely you're not going to be seeing that as a penny stock.
Does anyone else have any pending gold properties that they plan to put online that you know of?
Well, you know, CIBC did an excellent report looking at the last 20 years and seeing how many new deposits have been even discovered, let alone put into production. And it's really quite interesting. If you compare the number of primary gold or gold copper discoveries of, say, 1991 to 2001, there were like 57. And from 2002 to 2012, there were 18. And last year, there was about $5 or $6 billion spent on exploration for new gold fields, and it yielded one 3 million ounce deposit. So the trend on that is really sharply lower. You're not getting the bang for your expiration buck that you did before, and it's forcing the majors to go looking at smaller deposits rather than these large ones, which can take 10, 12, 15 years to develop, if they get developed, and cost overruns of 400 to 500% into the billions and billions of dollars.
Any chance that new technology might be able to recover more gold from some old mines?
Definitely that is going on, and not only that, but going back and reworking the old tailings. This is very common because the earlier miners didn't have the capabilities that we do today. So some of the things that they left behind actually are high enough grade, not only in terms of gold, but also silver, to go ahead and do that. And of course, this is also taking place in the PGMs. There were gold deposits that had platinum and palladium in them, and they weren't developed because they didn't even know what the value might be at that time, and now they can go in and do that. So that certainly is one factor that can help recover some formerly unavailable supplies.
The labor unrest in South Africa, any signs of that calming down, or is it still going to be a problem into the new year?
It has calmed down, but I think you just kind of watch it simmer, because it's one thing about solving the systemic problems, and it's another thing about dealing with the symptoms. The South African government is talking about higher royalty payments to the government for those producers that are already there. The cost of their production continually goes up, and everything is just going to become more and more expensive. There's a widely stated report that came out that shows that the cost of producing an ounce of gold for most of the majors is right around where we are now, around $1,700. So they're not making much money, and they're going to have to kind of put up with that kind of an environment for quite some time, because governments are going to want more and more of what they perceive as their share of the pie.
Of course, if you put too many royalties on them or increase them to a certain amount, it's just not worth it to dig anymore.
Well, that's true, and they're just essentially trading dollars at the best. And the grades have gone down from what they were 30 years ago. The grades of gold that are being mined now are about one half of what they were 25 to 30 years ago. So it isn't a situation where you go out and mortgage your home and buy gold tomorrow because it's going to go to $10,000 by March. But the long trend is continuing to be up, and it looks like we're going to close the 12th consecutive year that had higher gold prices than the year preceding. And that, to me, is pretty darn amazing.
And with the holiday season, I've seen all these ads in the local newspapers in Vancouver telling people, if you need cash for the holidays, why not sell us your so-called scrap gold and your jewelry? And you had a cautionary tale about that before, and I'm sure it still stands true now, even if you really do need cash.
That's really true. You have to be careful. They're not going to pay you anything close to fair market value. It's a little bit like going and getting a payday loan type of a thing. You're going to really pay through the nose for it. So, there are legitimate coin dealer shops out there, and you can find them by talking to others and looking into the Better Business Bureau. Go in and take your jewelry in and have them weigh it and tell you what the percentage of gold or silver is and what they'll give you for it. And then make a mental note of where the price of the metals is trading that day. And then maybe go back in a couple weeks later and see if in relationship to where the price of the metal is that day, if you're still getting quoted something pretty similar. I think most people, if they go to a reputable coin shop or a coin dealer or even a wholesale dealer where they can, they'll get a more fair price for their metal than selling to somebody on the street. I think that's almost a guarantee.
And what your advice is as well is check around several places and then take a look at the price over 2 or 3 weeks. Don't just do it all at once at the first place you find.
That can be very helpful. And then, of course, the unanswered question, which we haven't asked until now, is why would you want to sell your gold anyway? If you have to do it, you have to do it. But if you believe in the gold bull market powering higher over the next few years, what you sell today could be worth several times more a few years from now later if you can hang on to it.
So that's great advice if you're expecting the prices to go up. Why not get the premium for your product? Of course, the really people who gave you that jewelry in the first place will probably be very disappointed that you sold it off.
Well, that's another thing. When you sell your jewelry, you don't get any value for the goodwill value or for the artistic work that's done. You're just selling it for what they can get the metal out of the scrap for. So you're certainly not getting a premium price in any sense of the word.
Thanks a lot, David. My guest has been David Smith. He's the senior analyst for the Morgan Report, which you can find online at silver-investor.com. You're listening to HowStreet.com radio, and you can contact us at info@HowStreet.com. I'm Jim Goddard.
Randy Elvis Frisky and his Las Vegas Show Band 40th Anniversary Aloha Tour this January in Chilliwack, Surrey, Sydney, Campbell River, Nanaimo, and Courtney. On sale now. Details at randyelvisfrisky.com.
Comments made on HowStreet.com radio are an expression of opinion only and should not be construed in any matter whatsoever as recommendations to buy or sell any financial instrument at any time. Available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. HowStreet.com radio is a production of HowStreet Media Incorporated.